Hello and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Echo, a Tale Eater podcast. This podcast applies a scientific viewpoint on the strange and bizarre phenomenon that happens in our lives when we sleep in altered states. In this episode of Cosmic Echo, we speak with Alan Shoemaker, who is a medicine man as well as a healer living in South America. He has a long history of using ayahuasca to help heal others and is well known in his homeland in Iquitos, Peru. For more than 20 years, Alan Shoemaker apprenticed with shamans in Ecuador and Peru, learning the traditional methods of ayahuasca preparation, the ceremonial rituals for its use, and how to communicate with the healing spirits of the sacred plant allies. If you enjoyed this episode of Cosmic Echo and would like to hear more about Alan Shoemaker and his work, please visit our website at taileaters.com/CE podcast, and there you can click on links that will take you to Alan's work as well as his books. Additionally, you can support this podcast through our Patreon page, which is located at the same site. Well, without further ado, let's get to the interview.
How are you doing, Alan?
I'm good. I'm here in Iquitos Peru, paradise, so wish we're here.
So, if you could tell the audience a little about yourself and how you got involved in plant medicines.
Oh, yeah. Well, I came down here about 19 and a half years ago, I think. I was living in Seattle, and I had a really weird thing happened to me when I was a U.S. distributor for a line of hiking and climbing boots that we make in Italy, and my partner in Italy couldn't deliver the pre-season shoes, all the orders we took, and so my friend came over with a bottle of wine and opened it up, gave me a glass, and I was headed back to the kitchen to get another glass, and he said, "So, what are you going to do now?" And I said, turned and I said, "Well, I'm going to the Amazon." And it shocked me as much as it shocked him. And he said, "What?" And I looked up in the air and I went, "What? What do you want now?" And I've had these things happen to me since I was a child, and I've learned to pay attention. It's like your guardian angels or whatever you want to call them, talking to you. So I said, "Well, I'm going to the Amazon." And he said, "What for?" I said, "I have no idea." So that brought me down here, and it's a long story of how I got here and things that happened along the way, but there were remarkable events that happened. And I outlined most of that in my manuscript that's on the net, available to everyone. It's called Grace and Madness. Grace and Madness. So as I came down, it became clear and clear that it was for shamanism. That's what I've been doing. I stopped my first shaman I saw in the mountains of Costa Rica, and he wasn't working with any kind of entheogens. He was working with plant medicines. And there was a woman there that had been a long-term alcoholic from Canada, and she spent the night there and drank his remedy. And in 24 hours, she came back out to a bar the next day. People were drinking around her, and she didn't look at it. So I followed up with her. I have no idea, but it was pretty incredible. Wow. And then worked with Valentin Hampes, my first teacher in the mountains of Ecuador, outside of Quito. He's a neurosurgeon and psychiatrist, so it was really nice to have someone that was an MD that was also practicing shamanism as well. So he had a lot of clients come to see him, and he knew when it was time to give someone penicillin and when it was time to give them chuchuasi or uniragato, or have them come for a San Pedro ceremony. So which is still the way I work now today. So when people come, I mix both medicines, and there's no reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Sure. Wow. So do you have a primary plant entheogen that you work with, or do you work with a variety of them, or?
I really adore ayahuasca and San Pedro and mushrooms. Beyond that, nothing else. I've never had salvia, never had peyote, and I think with those three, I've got enough to deal with as it is.
Do you feel that there's definitely a different spirit with each of the plant medicines?
Absolutely, yeah. And they speak to you in different ways, too. San Pedro is such a kind plant, such a kind entheogen. It's like you're looking for the light in the light. And if you, on substantial dose, it's quite visual, as well as entering into the spiritual realm, too. It's more of a masculine figure you're dealing with. And ayahuasca is more of a feminine. That's why I call it La Madre. But ayahuasca is like looking for the light in the darkness, so it's a bit more intense. But then it only lasts about 3 hours, and about half an hour of that is, or 40 minutes of that is waiting for it to have an effect. So both of them also are extremely cleansing for your system. Ayahuasca has been known to kill pretty much every parasite in your body except for the tapeworm, that, and so keep your system clean. San Pedro also, with most people, will cause a purge, and I mostly look forward to that. And mushrooms, I started mushrooms when I was like 19 years old in university, so they were like my plaything. But now as I've come into shamanism, they're more of a serious, more of a ceremonial use now. So I love them all.
Okay. Do you feel that mushrooms have a particular male or female aspect to them, or?
You know, I didn't pick anything up at all. What I get from it, though, is that they need to be done in nature. So
Okay.
I would say you're getting either a neutral or a male or female component. I don't know.
And how would you say that that these plant voices interact with your guardian angel?
Well, they allow me to hear the three that I have. They allow me to hear them a lot better. Well, while I have not seen them personally, I get glimpses from time to time. I've had people describe them to me that have been with me in ceremony, and the people are describing the same people. The people that have been in ceremony are describing the same spirits in different ceremonies. So, when people say, I have a gut feeling that, or my intuition tells me that, it's really not that at all. It's you have your guardian angel or angels that are with you, and they're talking to you. And so that's what you want to open yourself up to.
Okay.
And that's what your intuition and your gut feeling is. Yeah.
Did you have any experience with lucid dreaming or dreams prior to your experience with entheogens, or?
Yeah. Yeah, it started when I was a child. I had a lot of nightmares from watching too much Dracula and Frankenstein and Wolfman. And I had a room upstairs in my house, and I'd go to sleep, and I'd have these incredible nightmares that they frightened me, and they kept happening such that I got to be concerned when it was time to go to sleep. So I was worried about going to sleep, and ultimately, you're going to fall asleep, and then you have these dreams again, and you just frighten you more. So I finally got up the willpower to say, okay, I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm not going to let these monsters get me, and it's impossible, it's a dream. And so I went to sleep with that image in my mind, and here comes Frankenstein and Dracula, and I'm laughing and running circles around them, and then I start flying. So then I started realizing that you can control these things. So if you put whatever you want to on your mind and just hold it there and keep that thought there until you fall asleep, then you will dream about that.
Okay.
So, and then later on, when I was in my 20s, I learned about there were actually courses you could take to learn how to do this, but I'd already taught myself.
Okay. Do you feel that there are any connections between Eastern mystical systems with chakras and what you've experienced with Amazonian shamanism?
I'm sure there must be, but I haven't really studied Eastern religions, so I can't really say much about that. However, I did have one person that I respect a lot telling me that the reason that people will feel the effect more after they're vomiting is because the vomit from your stomach goes all the way up to your top chakra, and then you throw up, so it opens you up, opens your head up. And oftentimes you'll hear people talking about they didn't feel anything until they threw up. So, there's something to that. I haven't studied it, so I really can't say.
Okay. And speaking of vomiting, so do you feel that the purge is a vital aspect of the healing process?
I asked that very question of Valentin, the first teacher, when I was with him, because we were doing a lot of San Pedro and doing it in quantities that most everyone was throwing up, and me included. And I asked him, I said, Valentin, is it essential to vomit every time you drink this medicine? And he said, no, Alan. As long as you can keep the medicine in your system, that's even better because it all stays in there. So the next ceremony, when he gave me my glass, I put it up to my forehead, and said, "We are one. Let's just stay together. Stay with me." And I didn't throw up for 7 years.
Wow.
But during that period of time, about 5 years later, I started running ceremonies and explaining to people about how to use the vomiting, how to use that purge to not only get rid of the contents of what's in your stomach, but to purge things psychological that you need to get rid of. And after 5 years and watching hundreds of people purge, I finally told myself, okay, I want to start vomiting again, and I started vomiting, so I vomit now too.
Okay.
I love that word, vomit.
And do you have any particular opinion on ayahuasca analogues? So, for example, using capi and mimosa hostilis instead of capi and chacruna leaves, or how do you feel about that?
Whatever's available for you, I think it's fine and it's all natural. But I think there's some ingredients in mimosa that are probably not as good as what you get from chacruna or from charipanga. Syrian root certainly also is a good substitute for the vine. So there's not all the plants aren't accessible to everyone everywhere. So whatever you can get, I think it's fine.
Okay. And speaking of everyone everywhere, how do you feel that the actual shamanic teaching or lineage is being preserved in Peru? Do you feel that that it's necessary if someone were to learn to use these plant medicines to go to Peru, or do you think that there's worthwhile teachers stateside, or how do you feel about that?
Well, being that there was just catastrophe in Porto, in Balsa Porto, in the west part of Loreto. It's like 7 days away by boat, and then another 2 days by canoe to get to this place where apparently the mayor has been accused of, and his brother accused of murdering like 14 shamans over a period of since 1910, since 2010. And so that's so far away from here. And in some articles, you got it confused with it was Loreto, and it is Loreto, but it's right at the border of the other state called San Martin. So anyway, a lot of people can't afford to come down here. So, and that's no reason to stop anyone from pursuing shamanism, because you can get plants where you are. You can order them off the internet, or you can find them in your backyard, or up in the mountains, or in a cow field, or plant your own. So if you can come, I think it's a good way to get an introduction to it, because you can get a good start by going to a maestro here and learning the process of how a ceremony is held. But the people that do come and apprentice eventually return to their home country, and the plants that they learned here in the jungle are not available there in the country. So in a lot of ways, it's better to get a taste of it here and then go back and learn your own home plants. Not just the psychotropic plants, but all the medicinal plants as well. So, again, a lot of it's a matter of just money. Yeah. Okay. If you can't get down here, I would suggest come down. If you can't, then, search it out however you can.
And can you please tell us a little bit about the annual Amazonian Shamanism Conference?
Well, this started 7.5 years ago, and I was on the forums, ayahuasca.com, and everyone's got a pseudonym, and you never really get to know anyone, so I suggested that I hold this conference here, this international conference, and the first year we had like 165 people, and the next year there was 210, so it started growing, and then it dropped with the economic decline worldwide. So I have illustrious presenters coming in from all over the world, and some of the finest shamans I sum it up from the Upper Amazon and the Andes, working both with ayahuasca and with San Pedro, and Hawaii Sera, Maria Luisa, she's incredible. That's a bone center. A man that works with stones. So there's a variety of healing techniques that in the people of their life, and they show you kind of the way they do the work, and then you have an opportunity to go off and be in ceremony with them. And a lot of people stay and apprentice with them for a while after the conference is over as well. So, and now I'm working on another conference in Pucallpa, because the city flew me up there about 5 months ago and convinced me to hold a conference for their city too, because there's a lot of amazing healers up there, and they want their own conference. And so that happens in November. It'll be the first International Traditional Medicines Congress. So that's has a website too. It's www.firsttraditionalmedicinecongress.org.
Oh, great! Thank you very much. So here's kind of an abstract, or maybe not so abstract, but in Peter Gorman's book, he mentions red magic in kind of a positive light, and then in Stephen Byers' book, his teachers presented red magic in terms of kind of a negative light. Do you have an opinion on this, or is this just different traditions that view things differently, or?
I think it's just however the person will interpret whatever they're learning from red or black magic or white magic, and however you want to use whatever comes in there. So if you have someone that has a negative viewpoint on that, they see it as being used negatively. It's the same way with shamanism here. I mean, even call it white shamanism. You learn various things, and you can use those things actually in a negative way as well. So, and the same with red magic and even black magic. There's people here that are afraid to drink black ayahuasca. They say because the brujos use that, when actually it's not the case at all. Black is the most potent form of divine there is, and red is second. And cielo, typically, which is the white or the yellow ayahuasca, cielo means heaven. That's what most people use here because it's safest. So it gets kind of confusing. So it all depends on who you talk to. And so you're talking to me, and I'm saying, well, if someone believes something to be a way, then you have to go with that. And it's like if you go from one teacher to the next, whatever you learn from one teacher, you leave that in your backpack, and you have a new teacher. So whatever he says, you don't interrupt him and say, but my teacher taught me this way. You just shut up and you do what you're told. And then when you're done with your teachers, then you pick and choose what you like of all of them and what really harmonizes with your own feelings, and you make your own way of into shamanism.
Okay. Have you yourself, speaking of black ayahuasca, have you had any experience with Rattle ayahuasca?
Rattle?
Yeah, it was something mentioned in Steve Byers' book, but it was something that he had just heard of as being one of the most potent forms. But he had never taken it when we spoke with him. But I just thought I'd...
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to remember the name for rattlesnake here. I can't remember it offhand, but I think that's also the name of the rattle ayahuasca. But it's actually the name of the rattlesnake. And no, I haven't done that. I've played with red and black and cielo. Cielo is heaven, white, yellow ayahuasca.
Okay. And do you feel when you take different sort of varieties of ayahuasca, if you want to call it that? I mean, do they have specific uses? Is there a different use for yellow versus red, or how do you feel about that?
It's just a matter of you're getting more of the beta carotenoids, and with the black and with the red than you do with cielo. The black is a lot more intense, comes on faster. So no, I mean, as far as dealing with in the magical terms of red and black and that, no, it really for me it means a different effect to my body the way it comes on.
Okay. And how do you use tobacco in your ceremonies?
Yeah, tobacco is an integral part. Smoking and blowing smoke on people, smudging people. Don't put tobacco into my ayahuasca when I cook it, and a lot of the curanderos do here. I think it's terrible. It makes you vomit. But anyway, mostly, but still, you don't. It's unnecessary. It's also people that don't smoke, that aren't used to tobacco and nicotine. I mean, it can be dangerous, as we've learned. That the woman that died in Canada because there was too much tobacco in the ayahuasca. So, however, following ceremonies, I do like to inject people in through their nose with tobacco juice outside when they're laying down, and that drops into your sinus cavities on both sides of your nose and pulls out the phlegm there, and then you tip your head back and it drops into a big sinus cavity above your nose and your forehead where your third eye is. And then you sit up and you swallow all that down, and then you drink like a 16-ounce cup of Wayusa tea, or even warm water would do it, and you purge, and you're throwing up all this phlegm and all the tobacco juice at the same time. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and you've never heard your voice before because it will be crystal clear like a bell. So, yeah, I like to use it that way.
Oh, that's great. Do you have any experience with Toei or Brugmansia?
Yeah. Using about 3 leaves when you cook ayahuasca because it helps bring in more colors. But any more than that, and you're going to go into like the Toei world, and those kinds of, with ayahuasca, that can last like 10, 12 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And you know you've been dosed with it. Someone who used too much of it when your lips get numb and your fingers get kind of tingling, and your throat's really dry. And then the person has used way too much Datura. And Datura for me is something that, there are people that are professionals with this. I'm not. And there are sitters here that will watch you, and they dose you, and they don't drink. And you go into like a complete hallucinatory world for like 12 hours with people walking through walls up to you, old high school friends, and you have a long conversation with them, then all of a sudden they just disappear. Else happens. And it's really incredible experiences, I imagine, and I've had some people tell me about it as well. Also, my understanding is that when you come down from it, you can only remember about 10% of what you got. So what's the real point? It's also, if you take too much, it'll kill you.
Sure. So,
yeah.
with that in mind, actually, when you were speaking about taking tobacco juice nasally a while ago, I saw an anthropology documentary called Eduardo the Healer, and in there he actually took San Pedro also through his nose. Is that some practice you're familiar with at all, or?
Well, I know in the north of Peru that traditionally they drink it through conch shell and through their nose.
Okay. Do you have a preferred method of using San Pedro?
We didn't do that. Well, yeah, I prefer just take it, from a shot glass and put down my mouth. I can't leave my nose out of this one. Yeah.
So, speaking of the healing effects of these entheogens, what are, if you were explaining to someone who wasn't familiar with them, what are some of the healing effects that you could say that they are useful for?
Well, aside from keeping your body cleansed, I mean, it's like your car radiator. If you take the top off and open the drain cock on the bottom and stick a garden hose in the top and then turn the water on and let it run through, and it's going to clean the radiator out incredibly. So it's really good for that. It's really good for releasing a lot of psychological problems that you may have, emotional problems that you have, and because of its effects and the way it can change your thought processes and your mind, it can be an incredible healing medicine, which can cure just about anything if you allow it to. And a lot of that comes from your own mind. Let's call it like the placebo effect. Okay. So, I mean, how is it possible that people drink ayahuasca or they take San Pedro or peyote or whatever, and then for something like a cancer, and then they go back to their doctors and the cancer has disappeared? So did the ayahuasca actually eliminate that cancer, or did their own body get the messages from the mind when you're under the influence, knowing you're going to be healed from this? Because your mind is the most potent medicine there is. And if you can get something into your system that can change the way your thought processes move to understanding and believing that you have the power to heal yourself, that's an incredible thing.
What would you like to see happen in terms of legal ramifications with entheogens across the border?
Across the border, it's really simple, especially right now with all these people marching and occupying Washington, D.C. and New York and San Francisco and Seattle and various other cities, and it's going to keep growing, is that there's something that the system needs to understand, and we all need to understand because we've forgotten what real freedom is. And freedom means that your rights end where another's begin. So you have a right to do anything you want to until it interferes with someone else. And then you have to negotiate. Yeah? So anybody that's of age can do anything they want to with their own body. And they can put anything into their own body they wish. That's their own choice. And not one government, not one philosophical, political ideal has any way that they can touch that. And so you should leave us alone and let us do what we will. You know, in the United States, it's illegal to commit suicide, for instance. If you try to commit suicide and you fail, they'll put you in jail.
That's ridiculous.
It's insane. Now, I'm in Peru, where ayahuasca is completely legal, and so is San Pedro. And so is suicide. And so is prostitution. But the woman cannot have a pimp. But what a woman wants to do with her own body, she can do. And if you're an adult here, you can also take cocaine and marijuana. And you can have it on your person in a pretty good quantity. However, the check and balance on that is that it's illegal to buy it or to sell it. So once you get that done, then you can smoke it. Not in the open. You have to do it in private. But, I mean, I like the laws here. And so it's, you know, it's about freedom. And I think that we've forgotten what freedom really is.
Is there, I guess that kind of answers my next question do you enjoy it in Peru, or what do you like about it down there, or what do you wish was different?
Oh, man, when I left Seattle 19 and a half years ago, I had really had it up to my nose with the politics. And even coming down, just entering into Mexico and getting on trains, I came down by land, was such a beautiful, enlightening trip, because you see all these really, really poor people, but very, very happy people. And my notion, what I've known about very poor people in the States, especially growing up in southeastern Kentucky and Appalachia, is that the poor people have lost all their dignity and all their pride. And they're dirty, and their teeth are rotting out, and their clothes have holes in them, and they don't really care about themselves anymore. And the house is run down. But here, a poor person has, if they have a house, it will be clean. It may not be a nice house, but it will be clean. And when they clean up on Saturday and Sunday and the evenings to do the work and walk around town, and the people are really happy. I mean, I take people here on canoe rides down in Belen, and that's, we call it the Venice of Iquitos, because when the water comes up, the houses are 2 stories, or they're built on balsas, so they float at the water level. And there's outhouses by the river, and the kids are running around. Mom's washing clothes in dirty water. And these people, the tourists say to me, "Oh, Alan, oh, look, oh, it's so terrible." I'm like, what are you talking about? Look, they're so poor. I said, look, you see those kids running around, how happy they are? There's nothing poor here. It's all heart. That's the heart of Iquitos. And so, yeah, I love it here. It's beautiful. I mean, I'm in the middle of it's got the best air in the world, and it's got all the medicinal plants that I want to work with, which is my life. And the people here in Iquitos, not like any other place in all South America, they love gringos and gringas. And I really don't know why, because when I go to Pucallpa or go to other cities, it's not that way. They just kind of ignore you there. But I think they're so used to seeing tourists down here and gringos that, I mean, they're really happy. And I have no idea. I'm sure because we represent that maybe we'll take them to dinner. Maybe I will marry them and take them back to your home country, or maybe they'll just be able to, have some time to spend with you for the week while you're here, whether it's a man or a woman. Although for men, it's a lot more incredible, because the birth rate here there's 7 girls born to every boy.
Wow.
Yeah. So even for the Peruvian women, it's hard for them to find a husband, because there's just not enough men to go around. And so, as a gringo coming here, you represent like 100 to 1, because you are not only exotic and a gringo, but you can take them to dinner, you can take them to the disco, because 65% of the people are out of work.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a paradise. And I was married. I have 2 kids, and I'm a Peruvian citizen with a Peruvian passport. I love it here.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, thank you so much for talking with us. Is there anything that that you want to say? Is there a website you want to promote? Oh, go ahead. Go right ahead.
There is. Yeah, there's something that I've been thinking about. It's really interesting. Is in most countries around the world, ayahuasca is considered illegal because it contains DMT. So you got a glass of ayahuasca. How much DMT is in there? It's really, really so tiny, right?
Right.
So what if there was just like a trace amount of DMT? So I want to know, what's the amount of DMT that's allowed? What's the amount of any drug that's in anything to where you can call it a drug? Because this doesn't make any sense at all. You understand?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since the human body also...
Like you've got a cookie.
Yeah.
If you have a cookie that's got some marijuana in it, what if I was, and I don't smoke marijuana, but what if I had some marijuana and I had some traces of it on my hands and I made some cookies, and traces could be found in that cookie? Would that cookie then be illegal? I mean, how much has to be in there? So how much DMT does have to be in a glass for it to be declared it's illegal? And it's a minuscule amount of DMT that's in that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
The whole drug war, though, is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good grief.
All right. Well, I appreciate you calling and interviewing me, and I hope to see you down here one time.
Oh, hey, thanks, Alan. Well, you've been so gracious, and I know, but you were definitely on our list because your name just comes up in so many books and articles, and even people talking about going to the Amazonian Shamanism conference. And so I don't know. You seem to be a well-loved and an admirable guy that everyone speaks highly of. So we wanted to make sure to interview you.
Is there any websites or anything that you wanted to promote, like your own? I noticed that you talk.
Oh yeah. The conference is www.soga SOGA del DEL alma ALMA.org. Soga.alma.org. That means Vine of the Soul, and that's the information you'll see about the upcoming 2012 conference, which I'm thinking about holding that in the Sacred Valley by PSAC. So when you come to the conference, you can have one day. You'll be so close to Machu Picchu, you can go to the conference and go to Machu Picchu at the same time. So probably I'll hold it up there. We'll see.
Sounds awesome. If you enjoyed this episode of Cosmic Echo and would like to learn more about Alan and his work, you can visit our website at tailleaders.com/CE podcast, and there you can click on links that will take you to Alan's work as well as his books. Additionally, if you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so through our Patreon page, which is located at the same website. We look forward to bringing you additional episodes in the near future, but until then, happy dreaming.